If you're looking to buy a brand new TV, a large 75 to 80 plus inch television, and you're asking the question as to what is the best TV size, today I'm going to explain it as easily as humanly possible. So smack a like on this video because I'm getting to the point right now. Essentially, it's like this. You want to start at a 65 inch, go in store with your entire family and everyone who's going to possibly be watching this TV if you can. Go with the measuring tape after doing measurements in your home and physically stand that distance back, starting at the 65-inch level, and work your way up to the larger sizes you're trying to go. That's going to make sure that you find a perfect fit for everybody's eyes. I see so many people talking about distance charts, but there's no scientific postulate that can uniformly fit every single human being. We're just too different, too diverse. There's too many factors to take into account, from prescriptions to other aspects of vision like color blindness. I mean, the way we perceive things generally, personal preference. You would go crazy trying to find a one size fits all just based off of a distance chart. Now, that being said, there are some things that you want to be a little bit mindful of when you walk into these retail stores. One, they're always going to try to sell you on the largest screen size because that's where they make the most annual profit, revenue for the day, get their numbers out. That's just how the business works, and manufacturers are no better. So don't fall into that trap. Also, don't just jump up into an 8K display. There's no content. And while they may be talking about AI upscaling, honestly, it's still beta testing technology, and you really, again, don't want to just be buying just for the sake of having it. There's no point in doing that. So if you wanted that answer, yeah, definitely wait on 8K until it's mainstream, because 4K is still a big issue to get mainstream. Now, as I was saying, there is something you do want to think about, and that is pixel density. The easiest way to explain it is think of it like when you snap a picture on your phone and you zoom and crop into ridiculous levels and you lose a lot of detail. Well, that's kind of what can happen when you just jump up to the largest screen size. Most content is 1080p basically all the way down, like 480 and up to 1080. That's usually the norm, right? So when you're thinking about that for over-the-air content, streaming content, you want to be mindful of that. Yes, I know you can stream in 4K, but every single thing most people watch is usually not going to be 4K all the time. And you want to make sure you have a TV that's capable of, showing that without having a bunch of blurriness or just being overly cropped because you went too big. Now, don't get me wrong, TVs do a good job of accounting for the aspect ratios and everything, but they also don't do a good job of retaining the original resolution at such a massive screen size because of the loss in pixel density. So essentially, what that means is if you're like me, you watch a lot of classic shows from the 90s that were shot in 480p, and you're watching things like the classic X-Men, you blow it up to 85 inches, that show is going to look the worst it's ever looked at 85 inches because it was never meant to be blown up to 85 inches. It's just too big for the show. And the amount of pixels in the 480p is not enough to account for the 85 inches you're blowing up 480p to. So that's something you do have to think about, the kind of content that you are consuming on your device. Another factor is upscaling. Upscaling usually starts at the best level being Sony, then Samsung, then LG. Of course, you have other manufacturers, but that's typically how it goes. So if you're concerned with upscaling of older content and you want to make sure you're just getting the best, typically you want to start at a Sony because that's just where it starts. They didn't pay me to say that. There's no bias behind that. That's just how it is. Unfortunately, hopefully that changes and we can have more people at the top, but that's where we are. There's another trick that you can use that I personally do myself. I don't like bigger TVs because I don't like the loss of picture quality. I don't like that they're heavier to carry. I like doing everything more independently and by myself, and 65 inches truly is a sweet spot of television for me and for most people. But what I do to make sure that I'm just experiencing this total sweet spot is I use OLED. So I'm using a Sony Bravia A8G 65 inch. That eliminates any need to go up any higher because of pixel level illumination. What this does for me is ensures at the 25 to 30 feet that I'm sitting away from my television, that image on the screen is tack sharp and it looks good regardless. And I'm telling you, man, I can get away with that long distance where typically people have to go up into the higher screen sizes because I'm using an OLED, and honestly, it's working great for me so far. So I think there's a bunch of different factors as to determine what the best TV size is. Personal life choice, personal preference obviously plays a role in that There's going to be a good number of people watching this video that say once you go big, you're never going to go back. It's the best thing ever. But then there are going to be people that notice the clear and definitive downgrades to some content pieces when going that big. So it really just depends on what you're watching. And there's no easy answer to this. There's no one size fits all, but the best way to go about it and to get it done as easily as possible is to make sure you're just tailoring this as close to how you're going to watch that TV as possible and not just being sold on the size itself.